There are so many books and so many ideas that are out there that I could name. And I'm going to stick with some of the foundational people who have theorized these ideas and that have spent a lot of time thinking about the work over the years. I'll cite Dr. Gloria Ladson-Billings, who coined the term culturally relevant pedagogy and introduced that work through a book that is still quite popular called The Dreamkeepers, Successful Teachers of African American Students. And while that particular research study that she used to sort of develop and theorize the idea of culturally relevant pedagogy focused on teachers who worked effectively with African American students, the work is relevant to other students of color, to other students, period. She has a new book that will be published soon where she's revisiting culturally relevant pedagogy. So I look forward to reading that book, and I think that it would be a great resource for those of you who are interested in doing this work. Dr.Geneva has also published a book called Culturally Responsive Teaching. I think that that's another foundational text that I would suggest one look at. And then, of course, the work of Dr. Django, who theorized the idea of culturally sustaining pedagogies, which really built on and expanded the idea of culturally relevant and responsive pedagogies to think about language and other forms of identity, I think is also important. Go back to the beginning, the foundations, and then to think about how that work has expanded over the last decade. So I am engaged right now in a research project with Dr. Anthony Brown and Dr. Dinah Ramey Berry around the teaching of slavery and race, both in the US and Texas context. We're interested in how teachers think about that work, how they have learned to do that work in the classroom, and where are the places where they would like to deepen their practice around the teaching of slavery and race. I'll talk about this advice in relation to cultural responsiveness and cultural relevance. The advice I have is that this is a lifelong process. You go through your teacher education program, and in many cases, we hope that you've had the opportunity to learn about cultural responsiveness and cultural relevance as a way to approach teaching and curriculum practices. But in some cases, some students may have gone through programs where they didn't have access to that work. They may not even know what those terms mean. I went into teaching myself many years ago because I learned that there was so much that I had not gotten access to in my K-12 curriculum that I didn't learn about until I got to college. And I felt, wow, if I had gotten this information earlier, I might have had a different standpoint about education. I may have taken my education a little bit more seriously. I would have gone to college a little bit more prepared. And I wanted to make sure that I gave my students that opportunity. That was the sort of guiding idea for me as a teacher. If you value and recognize the importance and the need for cultural responsiveness in schools because of for those same very reasons that I pursued teaching in the first place. If you recognize that we need to provide a more inclusive and representative educational experience to all of our students, that should be what guides the work that you do. When you make a mistake or when something doesn't go exactly as you planned, you don't give up. You continue to do the work. You ask more questions and you work towards deepening your practice. And I can promise you this, if this is what you take into the classroom as your sort of guiding principle, that I want to be a culturally responsive, relevant educator, that after 5 years, after 10 years, after 15 years, after 20 years, after 30 years of doing this, you're going to look up and you're going to see how you have manifested that and how you have deepened your practice. So what I would say is don't go into the classroom assuming as a novice teacher that the way that you understand that work today is how you're going to understand that work in 5 or 10 or 20 or 30 years. It's not going to be the same. It is going to get deeper as long as you continue every day to do the work, to even just improve 1%, you will arrive. You just got to keep doing it. I'm still doing the work, still learning alongside my students and the communities that I work with every day. I am thrilled that we're continuing to produce teachers who are interested and recognize the vital necessity for culturally relevant and responsive teaching, and who also understand this is ongoing work and work that we need to be committed to doing. So I applaud you for your efforts and look forward to seeing how you will grow and develop through this program and beyond.